Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth on AFR Talk.
Hey, welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Well, costumes and jack-o'-lanterns, as well as requests for candy. That's right. Halloween, or what I like to call harvest, the harvest day, the harvest party that we are celebrating. Yet, I'm a little confused. I really don't know precisely what how Scripture addresses what we are recognizing, at least as a country, in the sense of what people have recognized as Halloween. So I thought, why not ask Pastor Aaron Free, Afternoons with Aaron, about that? And here he is on the very day. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Crane. Thanks.
Thanks for being on. Pardon for the delay. Let me ask you, Christianity, Halloween, congruous?
They don't mix, no.
All right. Is it all right to celebrate in the sense of looking at this as a time to get together, people dressing up, having fun, but not going to the notion of the idea of this is a celebration of the unknown, the evil that has been put out there, in the sense of, well, I don't know how else to put it. There's a sinister element behind the holiday, and I believe it is because of the church and honoring the saints, and on the eve of that, your thoughts. Why are they not congruous?
Well, you know, Crane, a lot of the things we celebrate in America, like Thanksgiving, it began as a day of national thanksgiving to God. So, you know, we as believers, great connection there. Christmas is a great connection. It's a time of celebrating the birth of Christ. And, of course, people have taken that holiday and turned it into, in many ways, something that it didn't start out to be. And it's really a day for, you know, buying and rather than celebrating the birth of Christ. But Christmas, we can make a connection. But Halloween is one of those events where I find no connection that I can make to this holiday, simply because the ideology behind it, Crane. It's one of the two most sacred day of witchcraft. It's called the Festival of the Dead. And witches call this the Feast of Samhain, which is a celebration of divination. It's a time of divination to communicate with the dead. And all through the Scriptures, the Bible instructs us not to be involved in any kind of divination, and divination is communicating with the dead. So it's called the Night of the Dead, or the Day of the Dead. And one tradition, Crane, says that the witches would go to the graveyards, they would lay on the graves, and they would try to bring up the dead, bring up the ghosts. And the ghosts would go into the villages, and so the people dressed in costumes to scare off the ghosts, and they would put food and treats on their front porches to keep the ghosts away from their homes and their crops. And some put out pumpkins carved with evil faces with candles on the inside to scare off the ghosts. Another tradition says that it was the Druids, who were pagans, that would go door to door and tell people, either you give us, you know, food, treats, or we will cast a trick, a spell upon your home. And so that's where the phrase trick or treat comes from. At Halloween, we bob for apples. Where did that tradition come from? Well, the witches, as Adam and Eve ate the apple, or the piece of fruit in the garden, and sin entered into the world, witches believe that eating of an apple, rather than bringing sin into the world, is a sign of bringing life into the world. So bobbing for apples, that tradition around this time, really comes from a spirit of divination. And so I think for believers, it's not something that we should be involved in, absolutely. So what do? lot of churches, they have harvest festivals. We do at our church tonight. It's called Light the Night, and it's an outreach to families and children on our church grounds here, and the community will come, and it's a time of celebrating Christ and His light rather than a time of celebrating death.
Well, there we go. You just gave us the alternative, and do you encourage when people in your neighborhood are coming around, and the kids obviously were responsible for what we know, and I'm just processing what you said, so I'm drinking it in there, Aaron, and so I'm sitting here and saying, okay, well, I like to look at this and not have any kind of connection with the pagan past of this manufactured holiday, but obviously a holiday that they hold sacred, as you mentioned, through history. And I'm thinking the kids like to dress up. Should we give candy out to people who knock on our doors?
Well, I think that's up to each person. You know, sometimes people turn off their lights, and then their homes get egged.
Exactly.
So,
I was looking at the toilet paper, teepeed, you know.
I'll tell you what I do. I just don't. I don't want to enter into the holiday. So I turn off the lights in my house and I book out of there just because I don't want to be a part of an ideology that is very anti-Christ, and it's a celebration of a long history here of witchcraft, and I've just never let my kids be involved in that. And so we've always done an alternative at the church, and I know a lot of churches do that. And again, we just call it Light the Night. It's an evangelistic outreach on a night of great darkness. We don't want to hide in a corner somewhere, but we want to come out in proclaiming the gospel.
Can we do that if they knock on the door? And I understand we can. We have our own choices. But I'm asking if they knock on the door and rather than do the old trick or treat thing, you give not your testimony, but the idea of what you're celebrating tonight. Is it?
That's a great idea, and rather than partaking of the holiday, someone comes to the door, maybe pass out a tract or, a gospel literature, just to communicate, what we believe as Christians, that
with a little piece
we're
of candy
not celebrating
attached?
the dead. The problem is, for the majority of people, they don't understand the history behind Halloween. They're just out dressing up as goblins or witches, and they think it's just a fun night. But we, as children of the light, we understand what's behind this evening. To me, it's not an issue of fun and games. It's an issue of the spirit behind it, and so that's what I'm opposed to.
I hear you, and I recognize it sounds like I'm fighting, and I probably am in the sense of saying, hey, being ignorant of the full history and even aware of its sinister past, recognizing, saying, hey, this is what I'm going to celebrate, but at the same time, what you're saying is, as believers, we have a choice to make. Either we are going to glorify Christ, or we're going to, and we can't do that if we are channeling our energy to something that we know is of the enemy. Is that a fair characterization?
Yeah, that's fair. And
Okay.
and again, for children, we don't want to take all the fun out of life for our kids. And so what we do is, as a church, we invite families to come to this Light the Night, and kids dress up as Bible characters rather than ghosts and goblins.
Right.
And we celebrate Bible characters and Bible stories, and
That's
we
great.
have a big night. It's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I have to tell this story now, and I know we'll definitely get to the meat of the discussion. And I got to tell this story because it's just so awful. So it's the day after Halloween, and I guess I'm about 7 years old, and my sister and I are walking around the neighborhood, and we wanted candy, and so we started going to door, knocking on the door, saying, hey, we're late trick-or-treaters. And people kind of looked at us odd, but we got some more candy. And I just felt like I had to confess that. I don't know where it came from, but I just felt, I'm kind of strange. Yeah, and by the way, yes, we were punished that night where did all this candy come from? it's like, but we were late. Yeah. So what we're going to do now, Aaron, is
the
shift
dentists
up.
love Halloween, by the way, Craig.
I know they do, and understand that parents oftentimes eat the vast majority of the candy.
It's true.
It happens. It really does, and you got to go through it, and that's your excuse because you want to inspect it. But hey, I'll tell you right now, if there's Reese's in there, they're mine. And so, Aaron, as we shift just a little.
By the
bit.
way, on another topic, off the topic,
Hit me.
I read last week they just voted the top 5 candy bars in America, and my favorite candy bar did not make it on the list.
What's your favorite candy bar?
Snickers. Isn't that
didn't
everyone's
make it?
favorite candy bar? Snickers?
Snickers didn't make the top 5 candy bars?
No, the number 1
Yes.
is Milky Way in America. I couldn't believe it. I don't like Milky Way. I like Snickers.
Yeah, you got to get the nuts in there. Did Three Musketeers make it?
I don't know if it made it in the
okay.
top 5.
Yeah, I can't understand why Snickers. Reese's had to make it. Yeah?
No, I don't think
That is
Reese's
not-
did either. Nope.
Probably not listed as a bar or something. They've always gone after and tried to block out Reese's. All right, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. On the flip side, we're going to be talking about what does it mean to be wise as a serpent and gentle as a dove, plus prayer for those to come to Christ. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Happy Thursday, AFR Talk.